Hi everyone. So, welcome to today's episode of EOM Coach Conversations. Um, Today, I have with me the lovely Sarah Moore from Dandelion Seeds Positive Parenting. She's been a coach for the last 2 or 3 years, and like me, she comes from a corporate world background where she's been working for the last 20 years, and having a kid changed all of that. And she completely changed the trajectory of her life and decided that the magic that respectful, responsive, peaceful parenting brings to our lives is magic that we need to share with the world. Sarah, do you want to add something more about yourself here?
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. As you said, I worked for 1,000 years in corporate America before coming to the parenting world, but I definitely felt compelled based on my own life experience of getting a lot of bad information, basically, and a lot of bad advice to help empower parents with other options so that they would know there are ways to foster a healthy, positive, and joyful relationship with their kids. So I'm glad to talk to you today.
I'm glad to have you here. So, we empower parents to have joyful, positive relationship with their kids. And today we're talking about that one secret ingredient that makes it all easier. So we tell parents that there is no instruction manual. Uh, every situation requires a different solution. That we need to really tune into our child and see what he needs in those moments, meet their needs, meet our needs, and then come up with a solution together. But what is that one ingredient that is effective in every situation, no matter how hard a time you're having, how hard a time your child is having, that just lightens everything up? What is it? Are we ready to spill the beans here?
Let's spill them. We know if we're parents, we know all about messes and spilled everything. So let's just spill this too. The magic ingredient is the joy of play. So many conflicts can be avoided with play. So much stress can come right off our shoulders with play. So much peace can inhabit our homes when we have a playful life and a playful connection with our child. Does it work for every situation? No, but it is certainly good for a lot of things, and it helps us avoid a lot of the stress that we simply don't need to have.
Can you give me an example from your life
Yeah,
where play?
yeah. Fortunately, life keeps presenting us with daily opportunities to practice this, right? So when we're parenting, we don't have a day where, I really didn't learn anything today, really didn't get to practice this. So this morning, I'll choose a really recent one. This morning, I was making my daughter's breakfast, and I happen to know, she's 7, by the way. I happen to know that when I make her breakfast, she likes the yogurt on the bottom layer of her bowl and then her cereal on the next layer. She wants to see cereal, not yogurt. Well, you know what I did, right? I poured the cereal first and went, oh, I forgot the yogurt. So, because we know our children, we know that sometimes they roll with it and it's no big deal. Other times, you would think that I had turned the whole planet upside down and, it just might not be pretty. So, I decided in that moment to say, well, I have two options. I can either go to her sincerely and say, I made a mistake. I know you like your yogurt on the bottom, and I forgot, and I put it on the top. I thought, you know what? While sincerity does have a time and a place, I don't want to assume that she's not going to be okay with this. My other option is to take a playful approach. And if that doesn't work, I can always take another route to creating peace within the cereal bowl again, right? So what I did instead was said, wow, look what I did today. Today I did something different. Instead of putting your yogurt on the bottom of your bowl, I gave you yogurt frosting across the top. And I called the yogurt frosting, and she laughed. Like, wow, mommy, you gave me frosting. Now she knows it's yogurt. It's her same cereal, but in the reversed order of how she likes it. But because I gave it a silly name, I mean, who doesn't like frosting, right? I gave it a silly name. She was able to accept and embrace that bowl of cereal as if it was the best thing I have ever cooked, when all I really did was just pour it out of a box. So it was a really easy way to avoid unnecessary conflict, to still call out my mistake, but do it in a way where it didn't need to escalate at all. And it didn't.
So what I see that what happened in that situation is that you were able to connect with your child and avoid a meltdown.
Yes.
And that was possible because playfulness is the language of children. They understand that. So that was when you avoided a meltdown. Let's say the child is already in meltdown town. What do we do then? Is it possible that playfulness can help us in those moments?
It can. I'm so glad you asked about this. Now, this is one where we have to use our judgment as parents and knowing the child in front of us. So, to take an adult perspective for a second, let's pretend that I just spilled. Look, I have a giant cup of tea right here. It's basically a trough of tea. Let's pretend that I was making a grand swooping motion with my arm for emphasis and I dumped my tea all over my computer keyboard. If my husband or a friend came in and said, looks like you made a sticky toy, and tried to make light of it, I'd be like, get out of here. I'm not buying it. That makes me more mad, not less mad that I did that. So
Mm-hmm.
for our kids, if we try to make light of something that they are genuinely upset about, they're not going to buy it either. They're smarter than that. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to be careful with knowing our child and seeing when validating their feelings, connection, co-regulation are going to be the best starting point versus taking a playful approach. Now, I'll share an example of when play really can work well. Oftentimes, when the child is on the cusp of melting down, they're not quite in full explosive mode or implosive mode, but maybe the lip is starting to quiver, maybe things are just starting to, like, you've got the map for the meltdown, right? You can see it's coming, but there's a detour that we can take. So, real life example of that. A couple of days ago, I was hanging pictures. My daughter just switched bedrooms. We swapped between the office and her room. And I was hanging one of her pictures, but I was doing it in a hurry. I was trying to get off to our meeting. I was not really paying attention. And I realized that I inserted one of the pictures in the frame upside down. And when I went to hang it on the wall, the picture was upside down. Well, she was already picking up on my stress because I was trying to get out the door. So it wasn't the best setup for avoiding a big emotional release. But she looked at it and she said, Mommy, you hung it upside down. I don't want an upside picture. And of course, upside down picture. And of course, she's assuming that I'm planning to leave it upside down because that's how sometimes the 7-year-old brain works. But I paused for a second and I said, oh, you're right. I did hang it upside down. I really wish I hadn't done that. I know just how to fix it. And she was still teetering on meltdown, but I said, I know how to fix it. And I went and I picked her up and I held her upside down. And I had her over my shoulder upside down. I said, see, if all we have to do is turn you and your entire bedroom upside down, and now everything is perfect. And she, of course, thought that was hilarious. And we managed to avoid the big emotional release. So once she was calm, and stopped giggling so hard and everything, I shook out as much laughter as I could in a safe way. And I put her back down. She then had literally seen the world from a different perspective, literally and figuratively. And I said, I guess I'll fix the picture on the wall. And we were able to move on positively from there. without having to escalate unnecessarily. So to answer your question in a short way, check in with the child, you know best. Sometimes don't do playful parenting. Other times, if there is a way to give it a shot, it's worth a try.
And I'll give you an example that has a lot of value for parents like me who are struggling with bedtime. So, and it really confirms your point about how when the child is already in meltdown town, don't go there, don't make light of their problems, empathize with them. But when they're teetering on the edge, that's a perfect time to do that. So I do that when I tell my daughter that it's 5 minutes to bedtime, and then what I'll do is I'll pick up her teddy bear and I'll start talking to the teddy bear about, do you think she's tired? And the teddy bear will tell me, no, she's not tired. She wants to play with me some more. And then we'll look at her, and the teddy bear will ask her, I'm right, aren't I? And she'll say, no, I am tired. And so we'll have this three-way conversation with me, the teddy bear, and her, where she'll listen to her body and then confirm, okay, I'm ready for bed now. So, that avoids that big meltdown before bedtime, which so many parents struggle with. And this is applicable for teeth brushing, for bath time, for getting out the door in the mornings, all those stressful moments in the day when the parents are in a hurry, they're stressed. The kid wants to take their time because they don't have the same burdens as we do, and I think that was a great way to explain when to do it and when not to do it. Um, but, so here's the big but. You are a goofy person. And when you were chatting before, you told me about your background in improv comedy and all of that, and how that helps you bring that playfulness to your parenting. I am not a playful person. I have a lot of difficulty accessing that playfulness in me because as a kid, I did not have that environment where I got to play a lot. I was always the shy, introverted kid who had her books and her library card, etc. So, how does somebody like me, who's not playful, um, who doesn't want to deal with that, how someone like me get into the playful parenting mode?
That is such a good question. And I want to touch on several parts of that. First of all, I love that you said you have trouble accessing that part of you. That is really different from that part of me doesn't even exist. We all were once children. We all, no matter how we were wired as children, we all at some point learned some version of play that worked for us. So it's just a matter of unlocking that part, bringing it back, making it safe to welcome that playfulness within ourselves, and knowing that our child is safe to play alongside us. So I'm glad you talked about accessing it versus it not even existing. The other part that I want to touch on, well, two more parts actually. One is, believe it or not, I was also that child. The library books are my love language. I'm still not as much of an introvert and a shy person as I was then, but I was voted most reserved in my high school dance group. I definitely was not a wild, playful thing by any stretch of the imagination, at least not on the outside. So a lot of this work is work that I have done as an adult because I thought, you know what, I might not have been or had that so much when I was little, but it is never too late to create a joyful existence. So along with that, that's part of the reason I did improv comedy and that sort of thing. But you don't have to do improv comedy to become a goofy person like I am. A lot of what we can do, and this is the third point that I want to touch on to directly answer your question, a lot of what we can do is redefine what we believe playful parenting to be. Many of us think we kind of get the image of a court jester in our mind where we think we have to entertain and be hilarious and we have to be, whoever your favorite comedian is, we have to be that person. Not
Mm.
all. I am usually funny by accident. Most of the things that I try to be funny about end up not being all that funny at all. Yeah, I'm very human, right? So when we realize that it looks nothing like the court jester, nothing like our favorite comedian, and instead it simply looks like joining our child wherever they are, if we can move into what our child is doing and operate at our child's level, that works so much better. First of all, thank goodness kids often have a fairly low bar for what they think is funny. Lots of things are funny to kids because they are naturally joyful. Much of the time anyway. But when I talk about going along with what the child is doing, you might have a child who is driving, their cars around the living room floor and it's time to clean up. And the very serious parent in us might say, those cars need to get back in that box. But all you have to do is say, you know what? The child is thinking that these cars have real drivers, that the child is driving the cars. Why don't we just drive them together back to, instead of calling it a box, let's call it the parking garage. And we can join our child in what they're doing rather than having to suddenly and miraculously be this hilarious entity in front of them. It's not about that. It's about connecting with our child wherever they are.
Yeah, so deep listening, which is something that we cover in almost every one of these conversations. No matter what we're talking about, at the end of the day, it comes down to listening, observing, and seeing your child for who they are and what they're doing. And I also feel when you were talking about this that, sometimes you can access that part when your own cup is full. um, if you've had a rough day, if you have too much on your plate, then you're going to have trouble accessing the playfulness in you. Your inner child is not going to want to come out. But if you've taken some time out for yourself and given that care to yourself, then you're going to be much more prepared to join your kid in their world. And I also feel like this is a good point to talk about because this works for me: short and consistent times for playfulness. So if you're a person who has trouble with playfulness, uh, put on a timer. We can play for 15 minutes, and you can tell your kid, let's put our phone down and let's play for 15 minutes. We'll do whatever it is that you want to do. um, I think that really works for parents like me who have that sort of a roadblock to playfulness. Um, why do you think playfulness works, Sarah?
You cut out right there. What was your question again?
Why do you think playfulness even works? What is it about playfulness that works?
Great question. Well, it's to your point earlier in the video here, it is the language of childhood. So we are not trying to communicate in a way that our children can't understand. We are speaking their very own language. So oftentimes, as you mentioned before, we come in, we've had a tough day, we are just not feeling it. And when we take that adult-centric, that self-centered approach around our parenting, nobody benefits. But when we can connect through play, our children feel seen, they feel heard, they feel understood, they feel connection. They naturally want to cooperate with us more because we're having fun together. They naturally don't test us as much because there's nothing to test if we're getting along. It simply makes our coexistence together either easier and more joyful. And I love, by the way, the very things you're talking about: bedtime, common source of stress for so many of us. Yeah, bring inanimate objects to life. That teddy bear, of course it talks. If you've got a child sitting in front of the TV and you think there's nothing playful to do here, how do I possibly make a TV playful when they're sitting on the couch and whatever? Well, you know what? I bet you can have I've got a pen here. It's even one of those cool pens with all the colors. I don't know if you can see that, but suddenly maybe the pen comes over and says, I am the pusher of the remote buttons. Help me find my home to the power button, whatever, and have you can bring anything to life and make it not feel like we are imposing our adult-centric selves upon them, and instead saying, you know what, we can just have fun together and
Mhm.
flow, and guess what? Life is easier this way.
Yeah, and that's such an awesome point that you made about screen time, because so many parents complain about how do we get our kids off the screen and more connected to us. We don't know how to do that. But if you were to truly connect with them using these playful techniques, then your kids are not going to be interested in screen time. What they need and want and desire more than anything else in the world is that connection with their parent, you, their mom, their dad, whoever, is in that moment with them. And so here I'm going to just wrap it up. And for anybody who's watching, if there are any questions, we'd love to take them now. Or I also want to talk about Lawrence Cohen's books about playful parenting, which has tons of strategies and playfulness ideas that you can bring into life with your kid for every situation. That's a great book. And for anybody else who's struggling with playful parenting, they can get in touch with us, Sarah or me, and we would love to help you. Um, Sarah is a guru in playful parenting, and I'm someone who's crossed over from being that serious, very down to the facts kind of person to a playful person. So, I know what that's like. Sarah, where can we find you?
Sure. Well, a couple of things. First of all, I have a mini course that people can take for free. Everybody's favorite word, free, about playful parenting. It's on my website at dandelionseeds.com. However, it is dandelion-seeds. So dandelion-seeds.com. You can find me there. I am on social media as Dandelion Seeds Positive Parenting, unless you are Instagram, and then I'm Dandelion Seeds Positive Living, because parenting would not fit. But that's where you can find me, and I would be happy to chat more with you. I also have an upcoming book, and I'll share publicly when that's available.
I am looking forward to that book so much. And I can be found at elasticityofmomming.com, Elasticity of Momming on Facebook and Instagram. And we'd love to chat with you. Thank you for watching, and thank you so much, Sarah, for for that wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
All right, bye everyone.